The sun of Elithra rose slowly over the crystal blue sky. It painted the silver trees and floating gardens with soft golden light. Elithra was a beautiful planet, full of calm winds, singing rivers, and flowers that glowed gently like lanterns at night. For centuries, the Elithrians, tall, elegant women with pale skin that shimmered in the sunlight, had lived in peace with nature. They didn't build tall cities like humans. Instead, their homes were grown from living plants, shaped with care and kindness, but behind the beauty, a silent fear was spreading. The Elithrians were slowly dying out. For almost 50 years, fewer and fewer children had been born. The healers had tried everything they knew: plant medicines, energy fields, ancient songs of life, but nothing worked. The Elithrian Council, made of the oldest and wisest among them, met in their sky garden to speak of what came next. Leora, one of the youngest council leaders, stood with her silver cloak floating gently in the breeze. Her bright eyes looked calm, but inside she was afraid. She had watched too many sisters fall ill, too many families lose hope. She had promised herself she would not let their world fade quietly. "It is time," said Elder Sirai, her voice soft but steady. "We must look beyond Elithra. If life cannot be saved here with what we have, then perhaps someone out there can help." The idea felt strange to many. Elithrians had never reached far beyond their solar system. They preferred harmony over expansion. But now, survival was more important than tradition. Laura raised her hand gently. "There are billions of stars. Among them, there may be a world with those who understand life in ways we do not. I volunteer to lead the mission." The other council members nodded slowly. Leora was brave, intelligent, and deeply kind. She carried the hope of many. The Elithrian starship was quiet and beautiful. Unlike human ships made of metal, theirs was grown from a giant seed, shaped into a living vessel. Its soft skin glowed like the inside of a pearl, and it traveled not with engines, but with light itself. Leora and her small crew sat inside the ship's central chamber. Each of them had one purpose: to find a world where help might exist. "We will start with the human world," said Arya, the navigator, looking at the star map. "Their planet has a strong biological variety, and their species is known for adaptability. Even in the coldest places, the hottest deserts, and in the darkness of space, they survive." "Humans," whispered Leora, testing the sound of the word. "Let us hope their hearts are as strong as their bodies." Far away on Earth, the world was buzzing with its usual energy. People worked, played, argued, dreamed. Life continued without knowledge of the Elithrian ship quietly approaching. Dr. Amara Patel was in her laboratory in a research center in India. She was a young geneticist with a bright mind and curious eyes. Her hair was tied back messily, and her desk was covered in papers, diagrams, and empty coffee mugs. She loved studying how life adapted to change. She believed that no living thing was truly alone. Every creature, big or small, was connected by the threads of existence. Amara was looking at a genetic structure on her screen when an alert flashed red across the room. Her colleague, Luis, rushed in. "Amara, you need to see this," he said, breathing quickly. "Something just entered Earth's orbit, and it's not a rock." Within minutes, scientists around the world focused their telescopes on the object. It wasn't like any satellite or spacecraft they had ever seen. It looked like a glowing shell, soft and alive. Governments tried to communicate, unsure whether to be excited or afraid. But the Elithrians came not with weapons, but with music. A soft signal of harmonic light and sound was sent down to Earth. It carried no threat, only a request. "We seek to speak. We seek help. We come in peace." The world reacted in different ways. Some people were scared. Others were curious. Many were amazed. News spread quickly. Intelligent alien life had made contact and they were asking for help. Not war. Dr. Amara was selected to join the first contact team because of her deep knowledge of biology and her ability to explain complex ideas in simple words. She also had a kind heart, something the Elithrians valued. A landing site was chosen in a quiet desert, away from big cities and noise. The Elithrian ship landed silently, its glowing surface reflecting the night sky. Scientists, translators, and peacekeepers stood nervously behind safety lines watching. The ship opened like a flower. A soft breeze moved through the crowd, warm and gentle, carrying the scent of something sweet and unfamiliar. Leora stepped out first. Her silver hair floated like water. Her skin glimmered softly in the moonlight. She was taller than most humans, but graceful. Like someone walking through a dream, the crowd went silent. Amara stepped forward slowly, wearing a white suit but no helmet. She wanted the Elithrians to see her face clearly. She placed her hand on her chest and spoke gently. "Welcome to Earth." Leora tilted her head, then copied the gesture. Her voice was soft and melodic. "Thank you. Our Elithrians. We come from Elithra. Our world is dying. We need help." Over the next few weeks, Leora and her delegation stayed in a secure but peaceful base. Earth's scientists and the Elithrians began sharing their knowledge. Communication wasn't always easy. Elithrian language was made of sound, light, and gentle movement. But both sides were patient. Amara spent hours talking to Leora. She was fascinated by how Elithrians lived. They didn't pollute their world. They didn't build giant machines to conquer nature. Instead, they learned to grow with it. Every Elithrian home was alive. Their clothes were woven from plants that grew only when sung to. Their energy came from the wind, the light, and the planet itself, but beneath all that beauty was their pain. Leora explained their problem one quiet night as they sat by a small, artificial lake in the base. "Our children are disappearing," Leora said softly, her voice like wind through leaves. "Our bodies are failing to create life. We have tried everything. We do not want to change who we are, but we do not want to vanish." Amara listened carefully. "On Earth," she replied gently, "we also faced sickness, hunger, and fear many times. But we survived not because we were the strongest, but because we found ways to adapt." "Adapt," Leora repeated slowly, tasting the word. "Yes, that is what humans are known for." In the days that followed, the Elithrians shared their biological data with human scientists. It was unlike anything Earth had seen. Their DNA was not just a code of chemicals, it was a living symphony, changing with emotion and the environment. But something had broken the harmony. A cosmic event, an intense burst of radiation from a nearby star, had damaged the delicate patterns in their genes. They could no longer reproduce naturally. Amara worked day and night with her team, studying, comparing, analyzing. She felt a quiet responsibility. This wasn't just a scientific puzzle. It was about lives. An entire civilization was trusting humanity. Meanwhile, outside the labs, the world was changing. People from many countries sent messages of support. Artists painted Elithrians in beautiful colors. Children recorded songs of hope. Farmers offered seeds. Engineers designed new ideas. For the first time in a long time, Earth was united by something bigger than itself. One evening, after a long day of research, Amara and Leora walked through the garden section of the base. It had been designed to make the Elithrians feel more at home, with glowing plants and soft music in the air. Leora touched a flower, and it bloomed instantly. Sensing her presence, "You could have chosen another planet," Amara said softly. "Why Earth?" Leora looked at her with calm eyes. "We studied many worlds. Many had strong technology, great power. But your world..." She paused, searching for the right words. "Your people are many, different, chaotic. And yet again and again you survive. You make life out of broken things. That is what we need, not just technology. We need spirit." Mara smiled faintly. "Then you came to the right place." The Elithrians slowly became more comfortable on Earth. They joined human meals, listened to music, watched sunsets over the desert. They were amazed by how humans laughed loudly, how they hugged each other without hesitation, how they turned even small things into reasons to celebrate. Leora began to feel something, a kind of hope she had not known in years. but the problem was still not solved. The Elithrian DNA was delicate, like a cracked mirror. Fixing it was a challenge unlike any humanity had faced. Yet Amara and her team refused to give up. Every failure only pushed them to think harder, to imagine more. Leora watched them work with quiet awe. On Elithra, problems were approached gently, patiently, but humans fought for every inch of hope, even against impossible odds. She began to believe that maybe, just maybe, her people had found their miracle. Weeks turned into months. Trust grew between the two civilizations. Humanity didn't treat the Elithrians like visitors from another world. They treated them like friends. Leora stood one night on the rooftop of the base, looking at the stars. Amara joined her with a warm drink in hand. "Do you think your people will accept help from mine?" Amara asked quietly. Leora thought for a moment. "They will," she said at last. "Because what you give is not just science. It is kindness. And kindness is something even stars cannot destroy." The two women stood together, looking at the night sky. Somewhere out there, Elithra waited. A fading world. But now, it was not alone. Hope had crossed the stars. The soft evening light filled the research base as the sun dipped below the desert horizon. Golden rays touched the glowing Elithrian ship, making it look like a pearl resting on sand. The Earth and Elithra teams had been working together for many months now. Every hallway of the base was filled with quiet conversations, shared meals, laughter, and sometimes tired sighs after long nights in the labs. Dr. Amara Patel stood inside the genetics lab, looking at a glowing screen. It showed an Elithrian DNA pattern. The colors shifted slowly like flowing music. But in the middle of the pattern was a dark spacer, broken line that meant life could not continue as it should. She had spent countless nights trying to fix that gap. Behind her, Luis leaned against the table with a cup of tea. "You look tired," he said gently. Amara smiled faintly without looking away from the screen. "I am tired, but I can't stop now. We are close." Luis raised an eyebrow. "Close is what you said 3 weeks ago." Amara finally turned toward him. "I mean it this time. Their DNA isn't like ours. It's alive. It listens. It reacts to emotion. That's why we're failing. We keep treating it like code, but it's more like a song." Luis tilted his head. "A song?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, a living song." Outside the lab in the base garden, Leora walked barefoot on the soft earth. The glowing flowers opened as she passed, sensing her presence. Her silver hair caught the wind, and the stars reflected in her calm eyes. Earth was strange to her, but it was also beautiful. It was loud, busy, messy, and yet full of life. She had grown used to the taste of human food, the sound of their laughter, and the way humans hugged one another so easily. But her heart was still heavy. Every day she received messages from Elithra. Her people were waiting, growing weaker. Fewer children were born each season. The weight of their future rested on this mission. Arya approached quietly from behind, another Elithrian who had come with her. "The humans work hard," she said softly. "But what if it's not enough?" Leora touched a flower gently. "Then we will work harder with them. They do not stop trying, Arya. I have never seen such determination." A few days later, Amara called for a special meeting. The Elithrians and the human scientists gathered in the main hall. The ceiling was made of glass, so the stars were visible above them. Like silent witnesses, Amara stood in front of a large digital display showing Elithrian DNA next to human DNA. "We've been trying to fix the problem with technology," she said clearly. "But their genes are not only chemical, they're emotional. We need something more than machines." Leora stepped forward slightly curious. Amara continued, "Humans are good at surviving because we adapt. Not just with tools, but with feelings, ideas, art, and imagination. I think the solution is not just science. It's connection." Luis whispered to another scientist. "She's going to make me sing to DNA, isn't she?" Amara smiled. "Maybe." The Elithrians exchanged gentle glances. On their world, songs were sacred. Their ancestors used songs to help plants grow, to heal the sick, to welcome new life. If their DNA truly listened, maybe music could speak to it in ways machines could not. Over the next weeks, a new experiment began. In the genetics chamber, the Elithrians and humans worked side by side. Leora stood inside a circle of glowing light, singing softly. Her voice was calm and full of life, carrying a melody older than her civilization itself. Next to her, Amara adjusted the controls. The DNA on the screen responded faintly to the song. Its colors shifted. Its broken lines trembled like they were listening. "It's working," whispered Luis, his eyes wide. Leora's song grew stronger, joined by the voices of other Elithrians. The lab filled with sound like warm wind through trees. The human scientists didn't understand the language, but they felt it deep inside. It was gentle, powerful, and full of hope. For the first time, the dark gap in the Elithrian DNA flickered with light. The news of the breakthrough spread quickly. Across Earth, people followed the progress with excitement. In many cities, children drew Elithrians, with glowing hair and starry skies. Musicians wrote songs inspired by the project. Farmers sent seeds from different parts of the world, hoping to help grow something new. The Elithrians felt this love deeply. On Elithra, emotions shaped their environment. On Earth, emotions built bridges between strangers. Leora spent more time with Amara as the project grew. They became close friends, their bond built not only on science but on trust. One night, they sat on the roof of the base, sharing warm drinks as the desert wind brushed past them. "You humans," Leora said softly, "you build cities from stone, fly through skies of metal, and reach for the stars with fire. But what surprises me most is not your inventions. It is your heart." Amara laughed softly. "Our heart?" "Yes. You care about everything, even things you do not know. You care enough to fight for others. It is beautiful." Amara's smile faded into something gentle. "Maybe that's why you found us?" The work continued with more success. Using a combination of music, biotechnology, and Earth's genetic knowledge, the team slowly began to repair the broken DNA pattern. Every day, the colors grew brighter. Elithrian genes responded not just to sound, but to emotion shared between the two species. One day, test samples showed a perfect glowing spiral, the first stable pattern in years. Leora's hands trembled as she looked at it. For the first time, her people had a chance to survive. Arya hugged her gently. Even the human scientists cheered. Amara laughed, tired and happy. But there was still much to do. One repaired pattern was only the beginning. It had to work safely for the entire Elithrian population. As the weeks passed, Earth and Elithra's cultures blended more. Elithrians shared their plant-based technology, teaching humans how to grow homes and create energy from living things. In return, humans shared their creativity: paintings, stories, jokes, music of every kind. The base became more than a research center. It became a shared home. The Elithrians, who had lived with quiet sadness for so long, began to laugh again. They danced with humans during music nights. They learned to play instruments. Leora learned how to play a small Indian flute from Amara. Her soft, clear notes filled the bass at night, echoing gently against the stars. Meanwhile, in distant Elithra, hope began to bloom. Messages from the planet carried relief and joy. People gathered around light trees to listen to updates from Earth. Children, though few, danced in the gardens. For the first time in many years, there was a future they could imagine. Leora recorded a message for her people. "We are not alone," she said. "The humans have opened their hearts to us. Together, we are building a bridge between worlds." One quiet evening, Amara sat alone in the lab, staring at the glowing DNA on the screen. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. She was not just working on a project anymore. She was part of something bigger, a story that would live far beyond her. Leora walked in silently. She had learned to move like the desert wind, light and calm. She placed a soft hand on Amara's shoulder. "You are tired again," Leora said with a small smile. Amara laughed softly. "Always." Leora looked at the screen. You carry so much for people who are not your own. Mara turned to her. You are our own now. You came to us for help, and we came to love you. That's how humans are. When someone needs us, we try. For a moment, the lab was silent. Two women from two worlds, standing side by side, looking at the same hope. But not everything was easy. As the genetic work grew more complex, some experiments failed. The DNA would sometimes reject the new patterns. Amara and Leora faced long nights of frustration. This is not working, Luis muttered after one failed test. Amara pressed her fingers against her forehead. It will. We just need to listen more. Leora closed her eyes and whispered an Elithrian word. It meant patience with light. On Elithra, it was used when a flower refused to bloom. You didn't force it. You waited and sang until it opened on its own. Let's try again tomorrow, Amara said finally, and they did. Again and again, human determination and Elithrian patience worked like two hands holding each other. Months passed. The final experiment was prepared. This time, it wasn't just a small piece of DNA. It was a full biological structure ready to be tested. Everyone in the base gathered in the observation room. The lights were low, and the screens glowed softly. Leora stood beside Amara. She took a deep breath and began to sing. It was not just a song of science. It was a song of her people, a song of life, birth, and the light that never ends. Amara placed her hand on the control panel, guiding the energy through the machine. The glowing spiral on the screen pulsed like a heartbeat. Slowly, the broken gap disappeared completely. The pattern shone brighter than ever before. The room filled with quiet, trembling breaths. And then, Luis whispered, it worked. A wave of joy swept through the base. Humans cheered. Elithrians sang. Some cried softly. Leora covered her mouth with her hand, tears glimmering in her bright eyes. Amara laughed, her face glowing with relief and pride. For the first time in decades, Elithra had a future. Later that night, after the celebration ended, Leora and Amara walked outside into the cool desert air. The stars above were bright and endless. You changed our destiny, Leora whispered. Amara shook her head. No, we did this. Together. Leora looked at her with warmth. Before I came here, I thought humans were only strong with machines. Now I see. Your real strength is your heart. The Elithrian ship hovered quietly above Earth's desert base, glowing like a lantern against the soft morning sky. For many months, humans and Elithrians had worked together day and night, in silence and in song. They had done the impossible, rebuilt the broken code of life. Now came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The solution was ready to travel home. Laura stood in the main hall of the base, surrounded by both Elithrians and human scientists. The room was filled with quiet excitement. Screens glowed softly, showing lines of Elithrian DNA shining in perfect harmony. The melody of life had returned to her people. Amara walked toward her, holding a small crystal-like container in her hands. It held not chemicals, not metal, but living hope, a carefully grown genetic structure designed to repair Elithrian life from the inside. This, Amara said softly, is everything we've been fighting for? Leora looked at the container with shining eyes. Not fighting, she whispered gently. Singing. Amara laughed quietly. Yes, singing. The journey to Elithra was planned carefully. The Elithrian ship was fast, but the mission was delicate. If the genetic structure was damaged, everything they had built together would be lost. Amara stood at the window of the launch room, looking at the ship. Luis walked up beside her with a grin. You sure you want to go to another planet? He asked. Amara turned toward him with a small, determined smile. I didn't come this far to stop now. The Elithrians had asked Amara to join them on their return journey, not as a visitor, but as a friend, a bridge between their world and hers. After long talks, she agreed. The day the ship prepared to leave, humans and Elithrians gathered outside. The wind carried the smell of sand and desert flowers. Amara hugged Luis tightly. Keep things in order while I'm gone, he laughed softly. You'll come back with stories no one will believe. Leora stepped beside her, silver hair moving with the breeze. Are you ready? She asked gently. Amara looked at the sky. Yes, the ship rose slowly into the air, its soft light spreading across the sand like a quiet sunrise. Inside, everything felt alive. The walls hummed softly. The floor responded to footsteps with warm light. Amara stood near the front window, watching Earth become smaller and smaller. It's beautiful, she whispered. Lee stood beside her. It is, but so is Elithra, I hope. You will love it too. The journey through space was calm. The Elithrian ship moved silently, faster than any human ship could dream of. There were no loud engines, no shaking metal. Instead, it felt like floating in a warm sea of light. During the long travel, Leora and Amara spent hours talking. They shared stories about their childhoods, their worlds, their dreams. Leora told Amara about Elithrian singing gardens, about floating bridges and crystal rivers. Amara spoke about Earth's mountains, its noisy cities, its storms and festivals. One night, as they sat near the glowing center of the ship, Leora asked, Do humans ever feel small when they look at the stars? Amara smiled softly. All the time, Leora tilted her head. And yet you reach for them anyway, Amara nodded. Because that's what we do. Days later, Elithra appeared in the window, a shining blue-green planet with silver forests and bright oceans. From above, it looked like a painting. As the ship entered the atmosphere, Amara pressed her hand to the glass. She saw the glowing cities built in harmony with nature. There were no sharp buildings or smoke. Everything seemed to breathe. It's beautiful, she whispered again. Leora's eyes softened. It was once full of laughter. Soon, it will be again. The ship landed in the capital garden of a Elithra-wide valley filled with floating bridges, waterfalls of light, and soft singing trees. Thousands of Elithrians had gathered to witness the moment. Their faces glimmered like moonlight as they watched the humans. Guests stepped out of the ship. Amara walked beside Leora, down a path of soft grass that glowed faintly beneath their feet. The Elithrians were quiet at first, their silver eyes curious. Then someone began to sing. One voice turned into many. The air filled with a gentle living song that wrapped around Amara like a warm blanket. She didn't need to know the words. She understood. The great healing ceremony began the next day. Elithrian healers, scientists, and Amara's team worked together in a grand crystal chamber beneath the singing trees. At the center stood a pool of pure living water that connected to the planet's biofield. This was where the genetic structure would join with Elithra itself. Leora stepped forward. Carrying the crystal container Amara had made, she placed it gently into the pool. A soft, golden light spread outward like ripples in a pond. Amara and the Elithrian healers guided the energy, whispering and singing softly. On the monitors, the genetic code began to merge with Elithra's life patterns. It was delicate work. Every breath mattered. Minutes felt like hours. The chamber glowed brighter and brighter. Then suddenly, the pool shimmered, and the golden light rose upward like a gentle wave. It's working, whispered an Elithrian scientist. Leora's hands trembled. She had waited so long for this. The change didn't happen with thunder or explosions. It was quiet like a seed sprouting underground. Across Elithra, the living network responded. Flowers bloomed brighter. Water sang louder. Air shimmered with soft light. The broken DNA patterns were repairing themselves. On the monitors, Amara watched as the genetic code aligned perfectly. No gaps, no broken songs. Only harmony. Leora looked at her with wet eyes. We are saved. Amara smiled tiredly. No, Leora, you saved yourselves. We only helped. Over the next weeks, Elithra transformed. Fields that had been silent now sang again. Young Elithrians who had been weak began to grow stronger. Families who had lost hope returned to the gardens to celebrate. Everywhere Amara walked. People greeted her with soft smiles and songs of gratitude, but she always pointed to Leora and the team. This was not one person's victory, it was a story of two worlds. Amara spent her days helping Elithrian scientists adapt the new genetic structure safely. At night, she sat by glowing rivers, listening to songs she didn't fully understand, but felt deep in her heart. One evening, a small Elithrian girl with hair like starlight walked up to her and placed a glowing flower in her hand. "For the human who brought the song back," the child said softly. Amara's eyes filled with quiet tears. As weeks turned into months, the relationship between Earth and Elithra grew stronger. Communication channels were built. Cultural exchanges began. Humans visited Elithra to learn from their plant-based technology, and Elithrians visited Earth to teach about harmony with nature. One day, Leora stood on a high platform overlooking the singing gardens. Beside her stood Amara, wearing light Elithrian clothes made of living fabric that moved gently with the wind. "Our worlds will never be the same," Leora said quietly. Amara nodded. "That's a good thing," Leora smiled. "Before we came to Earth, I thought humans were strong because of their machines. But now I know your true strength is your heart." "And yours," Amara replied, "is your hope." The Elithrian Council invited Amara to speak during the Festival of Renewal, a celebration that marked the return of their future. Thousands of Elithrians filled the valley, their glowing forms lighting up the night like stars. Amara stepped onto the platform. She looked at the faces of a people who had once been on the edge of disappearing. Now they stood tall and shining. "I am not a hero," she began, in simple Elithrian words she had learned. "I am just one person from a noisy, stubborn world. But we believed in you, and you believed in us. Together, we built something new." The crowd began to sing softly. The song grew and wrapped around her like warm light. Leora stood beside her, smiling. Back on Earth, the world followed Elithra's story with wonder. Humans felt proud, not because they had saved a world, but because they had shared with it. This mission reminded them of something important, that humanity's greatest power wasn't strength, but connection. Schools taught the story of Elithra as a lesson in hope. Artists painted Elithrian gardens. Musicians wrote songs inspired by their melodies. Scientists continued to build peaceful projects between the two civilizations. Amara eventually returned to Earth, but Elithra was never far from her heart. Leora visited often. Their friendship became a symbol, a living bridge between worlds. Years later, under Elithra's twin suns, Leora stood in a singing garden, watching as a group of Elithrian children played. Their laughter echoed through the air, light and free. Beside her was a small sculpture of Amara holding a glowing flower. It's built not as a monument to a savior, but as a memory of a shared story. Elithra was alive again, and it would remain alive not because humans were powerful, but because both peoples chose kindness over fear.